All right, everybody. Luke Kornet makes his return. Wemby shuts the door on the Celtics. We're going to celebrate international players throughout the Celtics history today. And we've got our friend and author, Mark McDonough, here to help us all. It is a Sunday edition of Green with Envy. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will. We're checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me, as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. And Greg, on a day after Luke Kornet returns to Boston, I feel like our guest is easily the most appropriate guest that we could have had on.
That was the first thing I wanted to ask Mark is like, what is it like watching Luke Kornet return to Boston and just see all the media that was put out there, all the clips of Luke Kornet, the Derek White should not win the Tommy Award campaign, the video that resurfaced. Like Luke Kornet is as close to Mark's personality as there is in the
NBA. Yeah, particularly there's like a few things I knew you guys were saying to me, and I was like, I'm just tall and white, but then his mannerisms are pretty much exactly the same as mine. And they gave him the mic. This is when he was still in the Celtics, but this is the thing I always think about. They gave him the mic, and I think he was supposed to be like, say, like, "Let's go Celtics" or something generic like that. And he started singing "Holy Night" instead. And I was like,
literally you.
That I would do. So yeah.
So for the audience, speaking right now, our good friend Mark McDonough here, author of The Dead Know Nothing. And literally, I don't think it's been confirmed that you guys aren't related. So until further notice, I'm going to assume there's some relation there. But I was going to ask what your favorite moments are. And that's my favorite moment right there, because I've seen you do that joke 10 times in real life. And so when he did it, I was like, it's confirmed. They are related. Greg, I got to hop out for 1 second. Run the show. I'll be right back.
Okay. That's how we do it here at Green with Envy. Yeah, with Luke Kornet coming back to Boston last night, Mark, I'm speaking directly to the audience right now.
Yep.
We thought with the Celtics that they'd come in, probably do some big tribute video to Luke and whatnot. Wemby comes in, steals the show. Watching the game last night, Mark, I know you're not like a basketball coach or anything, despite having spent a week at a Nike basketball camp with me one time as a camp counselor. What are your thoughts right now? What are people talking about in Boston with the Celtics?
I guess, Boston sports media is just extremely annoying all the time. And so like the main thing that people just can't get over is like, will Tatum fit with this team when he comes back, which is just, I guess, they just need drama. But we won a championship 2 years ago. So like there is no issue, but I guess to make the story more compelling, because they don't want to talk about X's and O's, right? They want to talk about, they've wanted this feud with Jalen and Jason for 7 years now. So I just don't think it will ever stop, unfortunately.
I think there is some merit to the conversation just because with Tatum, he played such a specific style of basketball and the ball gets pretty sticky with him. He's a pretty methodical player. And this year it's seemingly more built around Jalen's preferred style, right? With Jalen off ball, he's like the play finisher. He is running a career high in pick and rolls, but those pick and rolls aren't the same as Jason Tatum, where he would just like walk the ball up the court and then kind of manipulate the chess pieces on the board. Where I asked Mark, well, I don't know if you heard.
I heard everything. I got you guys. I'm on board. Let's keep it rolling.
Hop in. What do you think?
Well, I was going to say, I do find the Tatum piece, and it's interesting because this is one of the questions that I had lined up too, is Mark, you're kind of our plug into the Boston sports scene outside of, just clips that make the rounds on Twitter and YouTube. And so the Tatum piece of it, and I just saw today Chris Mannix had, and I don't know where it was from, but it was from a podcast or an article he had, but then it talked about, Tatum is really going to start ramping up to try to figure this out to be able to play in February or March, which is always the timeline that we were talking about. And Greg and I haven't been ready to dive fully into the conversation yet of, okay, what is Tatum going to look like, or what's going to be the best way? But I am curious for this idea that Greg had, and it's appropriate coming off the Spurs game last night where, watching Wemby, who has now started 15 games and come off the bench for 9 games, like Greg brought this up maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, is like, maybe this is the blueprint for what you do with Jason Tatum, is you kind of bring him off the bench, you can pick your spots. And like you saw last night, the way in which the Spurs were able to kind of balance Wemby's minutes left him really fresh down the stretch to be able to come in for that game. And I do think that he was probably, even if I have quibbles with different things that happened at the end of that game last night, Wemby being on the court was probably the main reason the Celtics lost that game at the end, both his shot making, and there's got to be some type of, I was thinking about this, there's going to be some type of statistic that they come up with for drives deterred or drives turned around, where people just go into the lane like, no, Wemby's literally just turn around.
The Wemby U-turn. Yeah. It was especially in the fourth quarter, because Jalen was attacking Wemby throughout the game. And then when he stopped me, he got no foul calls. That was a huge part of last night's game. Jalen came out and said, give me a fucking fine because this is ridiculous.
Yeah, he wasn't pleased.
And Jalen would go into the lane and literally would make it to the elbow, see Wemby, and then just turn right around. Derek White would do the same thing. And nobody wanted to challenge Wemby because Wemby deterred Jaylen Brown. And if Jaylen Brown's not going to finish over Wemby, then who is, right? So I agree, Will. There needs to be like a Wemby U-turn stat that is monitored.
But real quick, the final point I was going to ask Mark here is, with Wemby kind of setting the precedent, what do you think the reaction would be based off what you're hearing in Boston if the Celtics try to do the same thing with Tatum? Tatum comes off the bench instead of jumping right into the starting lineup, or do you think that's just like perfect for Boston melodrama that's actually probably not dramatic, but we're going to make it dramatic?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's like, it's not dramatic, but they would love it. Like whatever, how, like I said to Greg, the talk radio here is just crazy or whatever. They do simulcast on TV now and everything with Felger and Maz and whoever. But I think in terms of actual basketball, if Tatum bought in, it'd be the best possible thing. But I think if Tatum is like sourpuss over the whole situation, then that would be the worst possible thing. So I think it comes down to whether Tatum's just going to embrace it or not. Because if he's just going to be frowning on the bench, then just start him. That's what my opinion is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what it would do is really endear Jason Tatum to the Boston media more than anything, right? Is they would stop all the bullshit about trying to tear down the Jays and all the stuff that they've done over the years, and just be like, see, Jason Tatum, he gets it. This is what Celtics do. This is Celtic culture. He's finally like transcending above the, ostensibly selfish young kid that he was, and is now turning into like a real grown adult, sacrificing for the team.
Yeah, and Kevin McHale came off the bench a ton. I think he was like sixth man for a lot of those years. And
sixth man of the year twice. Yeah.
And I don't know, he was like third in MVP voting one time or something. So I mean, like, you can still make a huge impact. I guess it's just the public image of your star coming off the bench. But I think Wemby makes it easy for us, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a blueprint for it now. And, I was surprised at how close. So last night I had to watch the Spurs broadcast, just being here in Austin. So I watched the Spurs broadcast, and I didn't realize how close it was for games that he started versus games that he's come off the bench. And, even their color guy is Sean Elliott, Spurs legend. And he even talked about it where he was like, all right, guys, I'm going to stop complaining about him coming off the bench. I get it. I think exactly. So it's clearly been like a topic of conversation within the Spurs as well. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting concept. And so Jason Tatum, I think, will be the funnest thing to talk about when we get to the point of, all right, right around the All-Star break, probably a little post All-Star break. Mark, the thing I'll ask you here is so let's take Jaylen Brown off the table and even with his comments last night about the refs that Greg talked about. Outside of him, Peyton Pritchard and Derek White, who we kind of, talk a lot about just because those are the three best players on this team actually playing right now. Who's the number one player outside of those three that just is your personal taste that you've kind of found yourself most interested in this season?
Well, I think Jordan Walsh, for me, is an easy answer. Like, he was like shooting 100% for like 5 games. Obviously, that wasn't sustainable, but you guys know how Boston is. They like rough and dirty players, and like, he's a maniac. I mean, he was 6'6" guarding Wemby last night, and was Wemby just turning around at some points and just easily scoring over him? Yeah, but like, Jordan Walsh in his head thinks that he deserves to be covering Wemby. And I think that's the attitude maybe in those years before the championship, that like the knock on the Celtics was like there was no dogs on the team except for Marcus, who was maybe a smaller version of Jordan Walsh. But it was like, oh, we don't have any fight in us. And like, so Jalen has completely flipped that switch. But as a second guy to have with him, Jordan Walsh is awesome.
Yeah, and I texted Greg last night. I didn't really understand the decision. I'll let you jump in here, Greg. I didn't understand the decision to have Jordan Walsh on Wemby early, and I thought he did admirable. To your point, Mark, Wemby's 7'9". He's going to turn around and just take a couple jump shots and make it. But I thought Walsh gave him some problems early, and then Joe seemed to go away from that late. I thought that was a mistake, but that was something I had mentioned to you, Greg, over text last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just I didn't listen to any of the post game, but I think this came down to spacing on the offensive side of the court, and they decided to go with Baylor, and Baylor proved that he deserved to be on the court, right? I mean, he had, I think he was 4 for 4 at one point, 2 threes. Like, he's making all the Marcus Smart plays. You mentioned Marcus Smart. Like, he does things that literally remind me of Marcus Smart, being first to the floor, taking charges, all that stuff. He's just a white lefty, and he's not Marcus Smart, like the lottery pick from Oklahoma State, right? So I do think that for me, I didn't really see too much issues with how Joe managed the team down the stretch. My issue was playing Jaylen Brown 44 minutes and Derek White 43 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back against the Spurs. Like, it
also
didn't really
3 games in 4 nights as well, too. So that's
like to me, it was like, was Jalen asking for this? You always hear stars talk about how they need some games during the year to like test their conditioning. Maybe that was one of those games, but that didn't make any sense to me. And you could see Jalen, I think at one point he was like 0 for 6 in the fourth quarter. He just didn't have anything down the stretch. He played a pretty bad fourth quarter. And I think a lot of it had to do with fatigue and, once again, frustration with the referees.
Do you think also maybe it was just like they want to see where they stack up against like the actual good teams in the league? Because like the East is so weak. So like, and the Spurs are been handling the Thunder. So like, if we beat the Spurs, the transitive property is that we're a good team. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I agree with that. I do think that one of the biggest issues, now that I'm like thinking about it as we're talking it through and the coffee's hitting the brain, with Simons and Pritchard, they didn't make much of an impact on the court last night. And I do think maybe that had something to do with it, is that they weren't getting the offense they normally get out of those two guys. And they're like, who else do we have on the team that can actually generate offense? So that's probably why you leave Derek White and Jaylen Brown on the court for a little bit longer. And the last two games against the Nuggets and against the Spurs have just shown me time and time again that Jason Tatum is going to fit on this team. To come back to that Jason Tatum discussion, like, we need one more superstar on this team. Like, like that's not like the greatest thing to say, but like, there's too many times.
Expert analysis here, agreeing with Wemby. You know, I think there's an extra superstar. I think that's what this team's missing at the trade deadline.
Because it's against the contending teams, right? Like, the Nuggets and the Spurs are both contending teams. Obviously, Jokic didn't play. Devin Vassell didn't play for the Spurs last night, and Wemby came off the bench. But to Mark's point, like, the measuring stick is not the teams in the Eastern Conference. It's not the Toronto Raptors minus Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram and Jakob Poeltl, right? It's the teams that actually matter, and all the teams that matter are in the Western Conference. So like, those are the games that I'm really paying attention to see how this team could stack up without Jason Tatum. And if it looks like Jason Tatum isn't coming back, if over this next month where Manick says he's supposed to be ramping up to come back, if it's not there with Tatum, that's when you really have to visit the trade discussions that we've discussed on other pods.
Yeah. So, I think right now feels like the Celtics, obviously sans Tatum, top of the league. They're just missing that little extra something, which is quite a big something in Jason Tatum. But again, we'll see. Celtics have a couple games coming up here. They're back on Monday night against the Pacers. So the schedule doesn't let up as far as just the amount of games coming in one. So we'll see how Joe handles the minute situations going into this upcoming week. For today, though, we're into something a little bit different. And Mark, I'm going to ask you, I asked you, I posed like, hey, let's do something fun when you come on the podcast. Let's do like a draft or something. And you said, let's do an international players draft. And I was like, hey, I love it. We haven't done this on the podcast. We haven't talked much about it. And it kind of fits. Play the Raptors on Friday night, Canadian team. Play the Spurs last night, Victor Wembanyama. pretty.
They're basically the
well
international team, Spurs, right?
Exactly. They feel very international, especially with their history. Like they feel like the international landing place for a lot of these guys, where it's like that's where they want to go when they come to the NBA. So I want to ask you before we jump into drafting our favorite international players from the Celtics of all time. Why did you pick this as what you wanted to do when you came on today?
Honestly, there's some Hall of Famers that were international Celtics, but like when we were growing up, when the Celtics weren't particularly good, there would just be like, I don't know, random international players on the team.
Don't give away any names because we got
I'm not going to say any of it.
Yeah.
But or even in the early 2010s, there was kind of some lovable, like miscellaneous players that bounced around the league. But in Boston, they always become like kind of like mascots almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just everybody I know that likes the Celtics like really loves these random international players that may have only been here for like 2 or 3 years, but then you remember them forever.
It's pretty funny you say that because I have a few tabs open right now of guys that I looked up last night, and you're 1000% right. 'Cause a few of these guys, I was like, man, that was a crazy 3-year stretch with insert this guy. I looked it up. Some of these guys played like 41 games 1 year. And it was like, it didn't even make it a full season, but in my mind, they were on the team for a half decade. So
yeah,
I think this is going to be pretty interesting here. Greg, I'm thinking let's do 5 players each, and we'll do snake format. We'll have guests go first. We'll go Mark, Greg, then to me. I'll pick twice, and then we'll circle it back. Anything else that you want to add to this draft, Greg, or anything else that you got before we jump in?
No, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I completely forgot we were doing this. So I've just been kind of like going through the list of all Celtics players that have ever played for the organization and just seeing if there's any names that like I've missed, because I thought about it like subconsciously, and I know a bunch of international players, but as I'm going through the list, I'm like, oh shit, I did forget about that guy. So
glad to see my text get read.
If it's in a group text, I don't read it.
It was in an individual text and a group text. So I don't think either of them get read is what I'm putting on blast here. But all right, let's get this started here. We will rock through international players draft. They have to have had played for the Celtics is the only rule. Doesn't matter how long they played for the Celtics, just had to have played for the Celtics at one point in time. Feel free if you want to make it a full point guard, wing, big man, do what you want.
And
this is your list.
What the one caveat I have is it how they performed on the Celtics or just in general?
Just for how they were in the Celtics. I think only their time with the Celtics is what matters, because number one, I think that makes it a lot funner. Makes it a lot funnier anyways. All right, Mark, we'll give you the first pick. Greg, do you want to go second or do you want to go third? Because you didn't know we were doing this apparently.
I'll go second. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have a ton of people. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, Mark, Greg, me. I'll go twice. Mark, you got first pick. What you got for
all
us?
right, I've got a first pick, and if it gets rolled out, then I've got a backup. So, would Kyrie count as an international player?
Of course.
Yeah.
That works.
All right, I'm taking Kyrie then.
Tell me more.
I mean, he's clearly the number one pick in this draft. I don't know what else to say. Future Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Kyrie was definitely on my list. I just didn't know if I wanted to pick him as the first pick in any Celtics draft, but I think
it was a draft we did recently where I think you and I just agreed we're just not picking Kyrie. I think it was like the player by like each year on the team or something, and I think we just mutually agreed not to pick Kyrie in that draft.
Okay, I'll elaborate further. If I was going to win this basketball game, 5 of 3 teams playing, then I'm going to pick Kyrie.
Okay.
Now, is he my favorite international player? No, definitely not. But if I'm going to try to win, I'm going to pick Kyrie.
Okay, I like that as like the purpose of what we're doing here is to draft the team that would actually win a game of 5-on-5.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm on board. All right. Well, I'm going to pick a consummate professional, consummate winner, someone who won his first championship in Boston, Dominican Republic's own Al Horford. Got to go with Big Al, even though he's left the Celtics twice, which kind of doesn't sit right with me. That everyone's just like, oh yeah, but he was such a beloved teammate. Yeah, he left us twice when we needed big men. And if he didn't leave the first time, there's a very chance we win the bubble championship. So I'm going to go Al Horford just because he's going to anchor my defense. And I think his time in Boston, the amount of years that he ended up spending. He was great for both stints. Al Horford all day, every day.
And I think they said this in the Celtics documentary, but he's like the only free agent we've ever signed, basically. Or like at the time, he was the only free agent.
Well, I mean, I remember before, like Amir Johnson coming to the Celtics was like a huge deal, and then we got Al Horford a couple years later.
Yeah, there's levels to it. It's slightly different bringing in Al Horford. And Greg, I'm sure you knew that he was atop my board as well.
Of course, yeah, I had to get him before you
going to make this pick. Yeah, it's a great pick with Al Horford. I will say, I hadn't really thought about Steve just said this. Like, I never really factor in like, oh, we probably would have had a pretty good chance of winning that bubble championship if we had Al Horford. I don't know why I've really not actually thought about that. I mean, I guess the one. We would have never signed Kemba, which long-term would have also been good, even though he was really good up until the bubble that season. So I don't know, make of that what you will, but that was a pretty interesting point. Okay. So you took Al. I hadn't even thought of Kyrie, I'll be honest. And so my top two on the board, Al was number one. I'm going to take my number two here, and I'm going to go with the guy who I think represents 90s basketball pre-Antoine and pre-Paul Pierce, or he's one of the handful of guys. Give me the Hall of Famer. Give me Dino Raja. And I'm going to be honest, Dino Raja, Hall of Famer. I think he made the All-Star team one time. Couldn't tell you a lick about his game, right? But I just remember, if you ask me what's 90s basketball before Antoine and Paul get there, I'm thinking of Dino Raja. I'm thinking of Todd Day, mostly because as a kid, they have fun names to say, and probably Dana Barros because he's local. Those are like the three things that I'm kind of thinking of. Maybe there's someone else I'm missing in there, outside of obviously like knowing of Larry Bird, but like who we were watching, because I didn't really remember watching Larry Bird. And so for me, Dino Raja, when I think of the international Celtics, when I think of 90 Celtics, he's just the first guy. And I also think that, Mark, I feel like you would know this. What was that show, Dinosaurs, that had like animatronics? When we were like kids, it was just called Dinosaurs.
With the baby that would always beg for food.
Yeah, that show was awesome. And I feel like in my head as a kid, I was like, oh, Dino Raja is probably one of the names of those dinosaurs. Like he could be a character on the show. So for those, very specific reasons, I'm gonna go Dino Raja with my first pick. Second pick, I'll just jump right into it. Unless, go ahead, Mike.
Can I pause just for a moment?
Yeah.
Very quickly, I was on Dino Raja's Wikipedia page, as I am every day. Because of this draft, and it said something about like Tommy Heinsohn's catchphrase was like "Bing Bang Boom Dino Raja." It's like that has nothing to do with Dino or Raja. It's just Bing Bang Boom, and then his name. Anyways.
Mike Gorman's catchphrase that I remember growing up was "Bing Bang Boom Barros."
Oh, so maybe Tommy just like got confused and said it. Anyway, sorry about that.
Tommy's old age was showing early in the 90s already. I like that. We needed some more information on Dino, so I like that a lot. All right, let me go to my second pick here. And I think now, unless there's some guys I'm missing, I'm mostly I'll be honest, I'm picking my team out of guys that I just think either I had a good time with or I think they're funny for one reason or another. So I'm going to go with a guy that's actually in the news just yesterday, got suspended for 3 games for trying to fight Luka Doncic after their game. Give me Germany's own Dennis Schroeder. I'm still a Dennis Schroeder fan. Everyone in Boston fucking hates Dennis Schroeder. That season gets put on him way too much. In my opinion, it was way more Ime misusing him. He should have never been on the court in the last 4 or 5 minutes. Greg and I would always joke about Jalen and Tatum would just get sent to the corners and Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder would run the offense for the last 3 minutes. Like, that's a little bit on coaching. Like, maybe don't have both of those guys out there. But I thought Schroeder got a kind of a bad rap here in Boston. I've always liked Dennis Schroeder's game. I don't think he's, game changing, but unbelievable international player in the theme of what we're doing here. I think he's a great pick. I like Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder's my number 2 pick.
The German Rajon Rondo.
That's right. Exactly. If you can't draft Rondo, draft the German version.
Well, I was actually going to say, Kevin Garnett said Rondo is African, so does that count? But anyways,
what do you say? Keep that, Danny H. Keep that little African kid when you're making that trade.
Okay, I like the pick, Will, but I think you're missing somebody major. But I do like the Schroeder pick.
All right.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure on me. But I mean, it's back to me. I'm going to go with a front court that proved they could win a championship. Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kristaps and Al Horford literally won a championship in Boston. So I'm going to pick Kristaps, even though it didn't end well for Kristaps. The peak of him is better than anybody else that's on the board. So I have Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis as my front court. Feeling pretty good about winning this game at 5-on-5.
That's what I was talking about. Well, I thought you were going to go Porzingis all day there, but
that's all right. I'm going for my own. I'm picking my team from my soul. These are my guys that I'm picking.
All right. Well, I think in terms of like the top tier guys, if Dennis Schroeder counts as a top tier guy, I think all the top tier guys are gone, right? Now that Greg has had Horford and Porzingis.
Yeah, probably.
I have a slightly weird one, not weird, but recent. Evan Fournier is who I'm picking.
Ooh,
so
nice.
because he plays in the modern NBA, you know what I mean? It's not like some guy from Transylvania we got come over and play for like a week. He's a good player, and I actually thought he brought a lot of fight to our team when he was here. Like, remember he was getting like arguments in the playoffs and stuff, and that's when we felt like we just had nothing going on. I was like, yeah, might as well fight somebody. So yeah, I'm picking Evan Fournier. I actually like him. I know he didn't work out for him here or since, but he was a baller.
No, he was good. He was averaging 20 points a game for a solid like 5-year stretch. So I think that's a pretty good pick. And he definitely had some moments in Boston where I was like, oh, Evan Fournier is better than I thought he was. But he inevitably just didn't work out. One thing that always stood out to me about Evan Fournier, besides the terrible hair, is he was much bigger than I thought. I thought he was like a 6'3", 6'4" guard.
Like
he came
6'7",
over
6'8", right?
Yeah, he's like 6'6", 6'7". So you got a little bit of size there. You don't have much defense though so far. Yeah, but I think you get another.
But I'm going to work on that a little later.
Yeah, you get another pick though, because it's a snake.
Okay. All right. I need a big of some sort, I think, or I could just actually no, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to go a little bit smaller, in between size. The best actor I think available in the draft, Rick Fox. So when you were naming 90s Celtics basketball, Rick Fox is a huge deal. If anybody at home is listening that's younger than us, probably does not remember that. But Rick Fox was like a star in the 90s, and good looking guy. And yeah.
So, okay, Mark, I have to pause you because Greg, I think we talked about this off air. I don't think we talked about this on the podcast. But when you mentioned that you wanted to do the international players draft, I think Greg and I were talking about one of the times that you came on very early in the early days of Green with Wemby, and we drafted something. We couldn't remember what it was. In my mind, we drafted who are the best looking Celtics players of all time, which is a wild draft that we definitely did not do. But I do think at some point, we
Luke Kornet is the answer to that, by the way. No, it was. I'll tell you what it was. Well, it was.
I'm gonna tell you it's Sheldon Williams, but Luke Kornet.
No, we drafted best Celtics never to make an All-Star team. So you had to make a team out of Celtics that never made an All-Star team.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, because we started talking about Rick Fox, and then we got on to a tangent about how good looking he was. And then I think we talked about, is there anyone else as good looking? And in my mind, that took over everything with that draft. And
I've been on this podcast twice, and I've talked about how good looking Rick Fox is twice. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
There's a theme.
Here's my question about Rick Fox. He was a pretty successful basketball player, right? Played on championship teams for the Lakers. Is he so good looking that he's more known for being good looking than he is for his basketball career?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's like, I think he's one of those people that like guys like us who follow the NBA like really like inside and out, we know, but there's probably a lot of people. It's kind of like people that discovered The Rock only from acting, and they're like, oh, that guy was a wrestler. Like, I think it's kind of like that type of vibe.
Yeah.
And he's just as famous as The Rock. Yeah.
Well, he did have that one great cameo on One Tree Hill where he was like a sneaky, like disgusting college recruiter who's trying to steal Nathan to his college. Okay. So I'm going to go. I have my front court all set out.
Can you just hear my cat? I'm so sorry. Can you hear my cat whining?
You're good. You're
all
good.
Right.
I need someone who can run a good pick and roll with Porzingis and Horford. I'm gonna let you guys guess who I'm gonna pick. Can we do that?
Well, no, because I'm not gonna guess anybody that I want to pick. I don't want to give you any ideas.
You didn't fall for my trap. I was thinking about Carlos
Coffee's
Arroyo.
kicking in over here too, buddy.
I was thinking about Carlos Arroyo because he did run a pretty good pick and roll back in the day. But I'm going to go with the Brazilian blur, Leandro Barbosa.
Son of a bitch.
Go ahead and grab him right now because he
was that allowed? You took the Brazilian from Will? I don't know if this is allowed.
I'm so mad right now. Just say
were you about to pick him?
100%. Yeah, I have 2 picks in a row. I was taking him. Yeah, go ahead. Talk whatever.
I mean, Barbosa, he didn't. I don't even know if he lasted more than a year in Boston, but I loved him when he was
40
with the
games. I looked at
Suns.
this last night. 40 games.
Yeah, and he was great for the Brazilian team, the Brazilian national team, and I just really like his game. And I actually think if we're talking about putting a team together, he's a little bit of a defensive liability. But when you have Al Horford and Kristaps in the back line, I think that's a pretty good offensive tack.
I'm gonna let my cat in. Hold on.
Yeah, go for it. We've got cats. We've got hosts that are running out in the middle of this episode. This episode's going haywire. I love it. All right, so you took the Brazilian blur. Pretty mad at you, Greg. You've stolen 2 of my guys here, so I feel like your team is just an assault on my basketball.
I've mind.
Yeah, the mind flayer is coming for you. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Have you finished Stranger Things yet? We're not gonna talk about it right now, but I do.
I did. Yeah.
At some point. Okay, we'll talk about it at some point. All right, coming to me now for 2 picks. So Barbosa was one of the guys that I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with an underrated favorite that goes back to the KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen Celtic days. He was only here for a year, but I thought he was the closest we ever got to filling that James Posey void. Give me Mikal Petrus. I think he's the guy. Yeah, I mean, listen. I feel like he really just kind of meshed with those guys. And I'm going to say really famous. I think only diehard Celtics fans remember this. There was an interview he was given at the end of the game where him and KG were just up to semantics. And basically, I can't remember if it was him or KG told Boo Boo to go to bed. I don't know. It sticks out in my head. I don't even remember the full thing. But Mikal Petrus was a guy that I always really liked. And I kind of wish he was around for more than just that year. If we had him for a little bit more in his prime, like I said, closest we got to filling that James Posey void after that first championship. Any other thoughts?
Was he the one that was referred to as the French Jordan?
So, dude, actually, it's funny. I don't, not French Jordan, but Air France. That was, okay. I'm looking at Basketball Reference, and I didn't know that was his nickname until just a second ago. But yeah, Air France is his nickname.
I was always a huge Mikal Petrus fan. Did he last 2 seasons in Boston? Or just one?
Just one. Just, yeah, 11, 12.
Stint with the Magic, didn't he?
Yeah, he was on the Magic for quite a bit. I'm pretty sure he was actually he was only on the Magic for a little bit, but I think he was he on that championship team? He was not. But yeah, I remember him from the Magic a bit. He was on the Magic for a couple years actually. Yeah, so he was on that Magic champion NBA Finals team.
What year was he with us?
11-12. So that I'm pretty sure that would have been the year we lost in 7 to the Heat, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So he played 42 games that year, only 6.9 points again, but felt like a real solid glue guy. So I'm happy with taking Mikal Petrus. Now I get another pick here, and like I kind of want to go funny. Now you guys are taking your team serious, so now I feel like I got to compete. Give me Neemias Queta. Let's go.
Oh
yeah,
Neemi's making a run here. He's on the board here. I'm curious to get your thoughts on him, Mark, because I think even last night I saw his stats where it was like 10 points, 8 rebounds, I think like a block and a half basically. And he's playing, roughly 25 minutes a night. And those were kind of the numbers that we laid out like, hey, this is the best case scenario for Neemias Queta. And we feel like he's a real dude, like not just like filling in, but like, hey, Tatum comes back, and whether or not we do need another player in the front court, even though Luka Garza has been really good, like it's not going to get it done against the top competition as we're seeing. Like Nemi, whether he's your starter or if you find a guy that's like equal value, as a player or just below, like he's part of it. He can be somebody that I think the Celtics should look at like locking up on some type of nice deal this offseason to keep him in the fold. But how have you love the big men. What have been your thoughts on Neemias Queta?
I think sometimes he looks unbelievable. And then sometimes I'm like, does he have bad dexterity in his hands? Because like he'll go for a rebound and it's like he doesn't have fingers sometimes. I'm like, just grab it. And he's so big that like sometimes he will have like 13 rebounds or whatever it is. And then sometimes he has like 5. And so I'm like, I don't know if that's not like, I don't know how to fix that really. Like, I think Joe wants him to like be the guy that gets the boards. So I don't know if it's like him locking in or not locking in, but to be fair, I like you said, in terms of expectations, he's far exceeding them. And now I'm like, now I want more. So I'm getting greedy, I guess, but he's been great. I'm being unfair to Big Nemi.
Well, he gets a lot of me bounds. We talk about this a lot on the pod where he just like gets his own offensive rebound, the me bound. So
Yeah.
the games where he has 13 rebounds, like 5 of those are me bounds.
Yeah.
So, and I think that has to do with like his touch around the basket, right? It's like you'll see sometimes like when the ball is actually in his hand, he has really nice touch, but the problem is getting the ball into his hand. Right? Yeah, so that's the issue. Okay, I think that's a pretty good pick, Will. So who do you have so far?
So far, I've got Dino Raja, Dennis Schroeder, Mikhail Pietrus, and Neemias Queta. For your team, Greg, you've got Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, and Leandro Barbosa. And Mark, you've got Kyrie, Evan Fournier, and Rick Fox. It is your pick, Greg.
All right, let's stick with current Celtics. I'm going to go Ugo. I think that really gives my team a nice role player, a nice connective tissue. Interested to get Mark's thoughts on Ugo as well, but this kid is going to be a career-long Celtic unless he's like somehow thrown into a trade that completely alters the Celtics' chances this year. If Tatum's coming back, which he's the piece, right, that you would throw in, because I think teams around the league would if you're doing a redraft, he's probably a top 10 pick. Ugo's just awesome, and I think he would make my team really good, competitive in a 5-on-5 game. Thoughts on Ugo, Mark?
Yeah, I think he's awesome, and you pronouncing his name correctly actually confused me for a moment. It's very much Hugo when I hear it, but no, he's awesome, and it's cool to have like a young, like good player from Europe. Like we never get to have that. He's still 19 years old or whatever, and he looks awesome. So like in 4 years, he's probably going to be incredible. But he's great right now, and he's just fun to watch. And he's another guy that's just like a dog. Like, I mean, I know that's an oversimplification, but you want guys that like are a little bit crazy, and he seems a little bit crazy to me. So
he fits the Boston MO. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, where just like being able to do all like the skills are there, and like I talked about how his shot doesn't look broken. It's not great right now, but it doesn't look broken. So I have a lot of confidence that that's going to come along. But like the fact that he just plays with this give a shit attitude, like Boston fans love that. Like sometimes I do think like, except for when we have obviously the teams that are like crazy talented, we just love these teams that are like in the middle, that like are just like on the edge of like starting a fight. We almost love those teams more than a team that's like more talented but can't really win a championship but is like closer to that. We'd prefer the scrappy team that might almost fight people every night.
Okay, hand up. This team of like miscellaneous outcasts that are like just trying their hardest is funner to watch than last year's Celtics team, I think, where it was just like, is Porzingis dying? Is Holiday washed? Is like every week, like every night it was stressful. With this time, it's just like, we're not expected to win. So when we win, it's awesome. I don't know. I'm having more fun this year. So I think you're 100%. My brain is broken, Will. And I like the underdog Celtics more than, and we haven't got the chance to be that in a while. So it's been a lot of fun. That's my cat, by the way.
Hey, cat. All right. Mark, let's go to you here for your next pick.
Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't take all of Australia. Aaron Baines.
Nice pick.
That's a great one.
So I'm sure anybody listening to this podcast already knows this, but Tommy Heinsohn on air said that he saw Aaron Baines in the shower and that he was all of Australia. So shout out to Aaron Baines. He was also just a guy that was a blast to have while he was here. Hard worker. He could kind of shoot the 3 ball sometimes. Am I making that up? I think he could a little bit, right?
No, dude, I'm looking it up right now because it's one of the greatest rope-a-dopes in NBA history, where I'm trying to figure out which season it was right now on the fly, where he didn't really shoot any threes, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs he was just letting it fucking rip. and he hit like several threes. So I'm trying to figure out which year that was.
Yeah, and that's kind of my Nemi this year, by the way. Nemi has taken a couple threes this year and it doesn't look horrible. So I'm just hoping that like the last month of the season we start seeing an uptick in Neemias Queta 3-pointers that we might see in a big moment in playoffs.
Is Aaron Baines okay, by the way? Wasn't he like hurt, or didn't he?
He did have something going on. I don't remember.
It was pretty serious where he was. I think he was like unable to walk for a significant amount of time.
Stinks. But anyways, well, shout out Aaron Baines. He was a huge fan favorite while he was here, and obviously well endowed. So good on him.
Gotta look at Baines in the shower, and I'll tell you,
real quick,
he's all of brilliant.
Maybe one of the best top 5 Tommy Heinsohn clips from his time, which is an illustrious time. But I did find the stats I was looking for here. So in 17-18, during the regular season, he played 81 games and shot 21 threes. In that playoffs, he played 19 games and shot 23 threes and made 11 of them at a 47.8% clip. Wow. Unreal rope-a-dope. And it wasn't like it's playing 81 games and 21 threes. Yeah, just unreal maneuver by Aaron Baines and Brad Stevens.
All right, back to me.
Yes.
I got one more, right?
Greg. No, yeah, one more for Mark. My bad. One more.
So this will be my 5th and final pick.
This rounds it out.
I'm like trying to decide.
Who do you have so far, Mark?
I have Kyrie, Evan Fournier, Rick Fox, Aaron Baines.
Okay.
You know what? We sat next to his lovely family at a Celtics game one time, and I've always liked him, so I'm going to take Daniel Tice. He was also on the same team as Aaron Baines for a little bit, as far as I can remember. That could be statistically incorrect. But I'll take Tice. So I'll have Tice, Baines, Fournier, Fox, and Kyrie.
Is this the correct pronunciation? By the way, I saw this video the other day of like people mispronouncing words, and it was like the funniest clip I've ever seen. But it was like how I just like transposed the different parts of the words. It was like 5 of the biggest fails in like streaming history, and it was literally, it had me like doubled over in laughter. I'll send it to you guys later.
I don't know, actually. Is it Tice or Tice? I don't know.
I thought it was.
I've only heard it pronounced Tice.
Yeah, this is the first. I'll be honest. I was like, I've never heard it pronounced this way, and it's making me rethink a lot of things because I've never heard that before.
Don't ever trust my word on anything, so I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. But I always liked him, and I think you randomly got great games out of him. And to be honest, I'm looking at the list of who's left, and I think he's one of the best available options.
Yeah, there's slim pickings for sure. All right, I'm going to go to, I need a small forward. Going back to the underdog Celtics, I'm going to pick Jonas Jerebko.
I was a Jerebko myself.
Yep. So we have my team: Leandro Barbosa, Ugo Gonzalez, Jonas Jerebko, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. Pretty nice team. Pretty nice 5. Got some shooting, got some size. I think I probably have the biggest team out of everybody with Ugo, Jonas, Horford, and Porzingis. That's some really good size there. So Jerebko was part of that Brad Stevens team. He overperformed while he was in Boston. And if we're sticking to the exercise, it's like their time in Boston. This was the peak of Jonas Jerebko's career as well.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. Jonas was a perfect Brad Stevens guy that he just got more out of him than any other coach ever had to that point or after. And it feels like there's like 6 or 7 of those guys that played for those Brad Stevens era Celtics.
I also think, I also think Jerebko is like one of those guys that's like a huge Celtics guy still. Do you know what I mean? Like he's like very proud to have been on the team.
I saw something recently. I was trying to rack my brain for it, where I don't know if he was shouting out JB or there was
JB was shouting out him. He was saying he was his favorite teammate, I think.
That's right. Yeah. That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. So Jonas leaving a lasting impact here all the way through JB's breakout season. Okay, I got one last pick here. So real quick for the audience, let me just run through both of your teams here, and then I will make my final pick and maybe make a couple honorable mentions here. So Mark, you have Kyrie Irving, Evan Fournier, Rick Fox, Aaron Baines, and Daniel Tice and/or Tice. Greg, you have Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Leandro Barbosa, Ugo Gonzalez, and Jonas Jerebko. Currently on my roster, we have Dino Raja, Dennis Schroeder, Mikal Pietrus, Neemias Queta, and rounding it out here, I think I'm just going to go with a personal favorite. I've got a few other guys that we can talk about, some honorable mentions. This guy was 0% chance he's on either of your radars. But in my mind, this is the guy that, Mark, when you brought up like people that I thought were on this team for way longer and they played one season, and this guy is so irrelevant, I wonder if most people are even going to know who he is. Give me Yuri Welch.
Oh, of course he's on my. He was literally the first person on my list.
Okay, I underestimated. Maybe, I mean, he's the last pick of the draft. He's Mr. Irrelevant here, so I didn't know if he was at the top of minds. But Yuri Welsh, in my mind, was an absolute sniper. That was like one of the first guys that I recognized as like, oh, this is kind of like one of those microwave players, right? That just all of a sudden can get hot for some reason, and this can't be true. But in my head, I learned the term like heat check shot from watching Yuri Welsh. I don't know why that sticks out in my head. Greg, we're at your house, we're watching a game, and Yuri Welsh just hit like 3 shots in a row and then took some wild shot. And they're like, well, that's the definition of a heat check. And I was like, that makes sense. You get like free reign when you're on fire, just to take whatever bullshit you throw up there.
What years was he in Boston, Will?
Early 2000s.
It was 03, so 03, 04, and then part of 04, 05. Before I think he got traded to Cleveland. So about a year and a half that he was there, and 03, 04 was he only played 4 years total in the NBA, so he wasn't around for very long.
What? In my mind, he was on the team from like 2000, 2005 or something.
That's how I felt, man. Looked it up. And I mean, listen, to be fair, in the 03-04 season, he played 81 games. He started 68. It's by far his best year in the NBA. He averaged 9 points, shot 38% from 3, which at that time, on 2.5 attempts, that's high volume at that time. So, it probably felt a lot more, and that team outside of Pierce didn't really have a lot to offer. So we were probably making more out of his contribution, and we're just like, oh, maybe this is the next thing.
But also at that time, just for the audience, we're all born in like 89. Everyone here is born in 89, right?
Yeah.
So
yep.
We're 14 years old at the time. And when you're 14 years old, like 1 year is the equivalent to like 5 years as an adult, right? Like it's just like 1 year is 14 years old. It's like feels like so long. And Yuri Welsh, obviously, he came in with like a lot of hype too. I don't know if that was just like the broadcast trying to hype him up, or if there was actually hype behind Yuri Welsh, but it seemed like Tommy Heinsohn and Mike Gorman like really thought he had potential, and then it just didn't work out.
So just quickly, Yuri Welsh is what I would like. So you guys listening at home are aware of the Wahlberg family, but we know Brandon, who's part of the Wahlbergs. And whenever I see Brandon, he'll mention old Celtics players. And they're usually somebody like, he'll be like, Yuri Welsh, like with no context. And I think Will might mention this person and in the honorable mention, but like Vitaly Potemko is another. I just like
literally the first guy I have pulled up from Basketball Reference. I have two tabs still left open from guys that I just like randomly pulled up so I could go to them. Vitaly Potemko and Vinny Sexpans are the two guys
I still got. Hey, can we do something right now? Will, can you call Wahlberg on your phone and just tell him we're doing this draft right now and just say, hey, list the first 5 international Celtics players that come to mind. Put him on speakerphone.
First of all, do you think I saved that maniac's number? Mark has just called me 3-way in before with Wahlberg and just left me out to dry on some random calls. I don't have his number saved.
Okay, so Mark, will you do it? I actually want to do this right now.
All right. If he answers, he answers.
Put him on speakerphone.
He's going to think somebody died if I'm calling him, but hold on.
11 a.m. on a Sunday, running to church.
He actually might be at church. All right, we'll see.
Can you turn it up by any chance?
I'm trying to think of who he's going to guess or who. Craig, let's see if we can think of real quick someone who he might say.
Okay, I don't think he's going to answer. If he calls back while we're recording, I'll put him on.
Okay. I like that. We'll leave that hanging out there in case we do get Brandon to give us a call back and see who he can drop into the chat. But all right, let's just recap this real quick. So the final all-time international Celtics teams that we have. Mark, you have Kyrie Irving, Evan Fournier, Rick Fox, Aaron Baines, and Daniel T/Tice. Greg, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Leandro Barbosa, Ugo Gonzalez, and Jonas Jerebko. And for myself, I've got Dino Raja, Dennis Schroeder, Mikal Pietrus, Neemias Queta, and Yuri Welsh. If you're listening to this, if you're in the chat, let us know who you think won. I'm going to be honest. I think Greg's team probably wins this game. I don't know how close it's going to be, although Kyrie will give Mark a chance in this one. But But I like the exercise. It's like we said, slim pickings once you get past the first kind of 2 rounds when it comes to the Celtics and internationals. But Ugo, we'll see. This is going to be a fun ride.
I was actually surprised at how good all of our teams were, to be honest with you.
They came out better than I expected, but that was fun. Mark, thank you for suggesting this be the gimmick that we do with you on the podcast. But it's not the only reason we have you on the podcast here today. We've mentioned this before on past episodes, but we wanted to talk about our good friend here and his new book, The Dead Know Nothing. You can see it here. I've got the book for those of you listening and watching on YouTube, and you can also see Mark's got the merch out. Mark, are we going to be able to get this merch somewhere? I've got a link in the description wherever you're listening to this for people to go ahead and buy the book. Do we have a merch website, or what's coming next?
I don't have a merch website. My wife, I do not use governments. I know you guys use governments, so I'll just refer to her as my wife. Made this for me for this podcast. And look, it's we did it backwards, so it looks on Zoom. We prepared. We actually did that by accident, but we just put it on by accident, but backwards. But no, the book is for sale though, no merch yet. I've got my Twitter handle there, which is @AgingRanchhand. And as you can see under my name, it says worst selling author. So if you guys could make me not the worst selling author, that would be great.
So Mark, you drew the cover art, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I recognize your kind of like.
Well, the thing is, I don't have any money, so I couldn't pay anybody to do it. So it's for anybody listening that doesn't know me. Everything involved with this book is all me, for better or worse. So yeah, I am the cover artist, the publisher, the editor, the writer. Yeah. Well, and now the advertiser, I guess. Yeah.
I do like just like the general premise of the book. And I also thought that you posted something that was that really hit home with me as I'm like trying to still be creative in my mid-30s in a hip-hop band. It doesn't really lend itself to much success monetarily. But I think that you said I would rather succeed as a human than fail as a robot. And I really like that because so many people use an AI these days. We talked about Pluribus on our last podcast. It was commentary on AI and whatnot. But I do like that you just approach this as this is me, take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not going to go like an anti-AI rant, but like I think the point of art is like to make a connection with other humans. And if a computer program is completely responsible for the art that you're consuming, like there's going to be something missing there. Like I mean I don't know how to describe it, but like the connection's not going to be the same. So I would rather, like you said, I would rather somebody read my book and not like it, but know that it was entirely me that made it, rather than like I had ChatGPT write a book and people loved it. Like I wouldn't get any enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, and on the note of the artwork of the book here, which once again I'm holding up to the camera for everyone to see, the original logo for this podcast, aka Brown Boy Lucky, also dates back to the work of Mark McDonough. So there's a long lineage here of your artwork on our show that is coming full circle.
Okay, this has happened multiple times where like either you and Greg or whatever, I will send you an idea of something and say like, get somebody better at this to fix this basically. And you're like, we'll just use the version Mark sent us. And then like, I'm basically giving you like a outline of what it could look like. And then you're just like, this is fine. But I do think somebody at one point updated that one.
Yeah,
right?
we did have it updated at one point when I can't remember whatever podcast that we first signed with. I think they helped us to update the logo.
Brown Boy Lucky is his name. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Brown Boy Lucky. That's what we always called him. So that's our original guy. I used to have. I don't think I have it up anymore. No, I think it's in my closet. I have the Brown Boy Lucky logo that I used to have hanging in my office.
Now as famous as Mickey Mouse is.
That was always our goal. But Mark, back to your book here, The Dead Know Nothing. I want to give people, kind of an idea. Obviously, we don't want to spoil the book. We want people to go buy the book and read the book. But, maybe give us just like what are some of the themes that you can look for in this book? I know obviously I haven't finished yet. I've started it. It's going to have a backdrop of, your Boston background, our shared Boston background. You said the stories are not based on anybody, although that first story first line feels like I know a person that may have had some trouble lighting a cigar on a stove. But tell us a little bit about what people can expect from themes, where this takes place, and why they might want to dive into this book.
Yes, the opening line is based on Greg. He tried to light a cigar and he lit his hair on fire, and then his mom yelled at him. And we were like 28. It wasn't when he was like 14. But in terms of themes, okay, so the general plot is a Catholic priest is left on the hook for attempted murder, and he's kind of like, he's a well-meaning guy, kind of like goofy, and he basically is trying to prove that he did not do this. And then it goes from there. I think for people that don't know me, or even people that do, I guess because it's dealing with themes of religion, if you're very anti-religion, you might not want to read this book because you're like, oh, I have no interest in Catholicism. Or if you're very Catholic, maybe the book will annoy you at some points because of the subject matter, which I did intentionally to help make no money so that nobody would want to read this. I think because it's basically about a guy confronting like his relationship with God, and maybe realizing that he went down the wrong path in terms of like what he should have done with his life. Like he's a good person, but maybe he shouldn't have become a priest. And then I think the larger theme is maybe just starting over again. So he's like in his 50s and is starting to think maybe he shouldn't have become a priest when he was younger. And perhaps he gets to choose to live a new life. You'll have to see what happens at the end, or maybe he stays a priest. I don't know. But there's a lot of murder and stuff too that I'm just skipping over right now. So it can be violent at times, but I think it's just about choosing to be who you were meant to be, even though that sounds stupid. I'm sorry.
No, I like it. I also think you're missing out on like the underlying sexual longing and like fire in his loins that you feel like almost immediately in the first chapter when the mom and her son come to the church because he's spray painted graffiti on the church, and he's just like, damn, this mom is fine. And she reminds me of this other girl that was fine when I was younger. And then it like flashes back, and like you just feel the origins of his story as told through this flashback as a kid, just like going through puberty, kind of discovering his own sexuality and whatnot, and just like seeing his girl best friend in a bikini, right? And then you just like the nostalgia that brings, I think is actually really poignant. And I think it sets a good foundation for the rest of the book as he's struggling with his relationship with God and his relationship with himself.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I think there are a lot of stories about bad priests, right? But there are also normal priests, and I was lucky to have normal priests when I was younger. And like even Jesus says, right now, I'm not actually a very religious person, but Jesus was human, even though he was God, right? So he had like carnal desires or whatever, the same as anybody else does. And priests do too. I mean, they're devoted to God, but they're also human beings. And part of being a human being is being attracted to other human beings. So yeah, I wanted to deal with that. And I'm not the first person to ever deal with it. I think what I'm spinning it as is like, maybe in a slightly comedic way, but also in a very Boston centric way where, I've now lived in other places, and I don't think there's any place as crazy as Boston. So I hope that comes out in the book as well.
So something that, and Greg, it's funny you brought up that part, because I'm only at the beginning of the book, but that part did really connect to me because, and I'm curious if this happened to you guys as well, because we do have, again, we all grew up in the same area of Dorchester. You know, you mentioned, like, I know Father Coyne is who you're referencing with, the priest that you're talking about, like from when you were a kid. My mom was very involved in the church, both St. Anne's and St. Brendan's. So I was very familiar with a lot of the characters that
your mom used to vacation with Father Wally.
We used to use his Cape House. Yeah. He wasn't there, but we did used to use his Cape House. That was my exposure to like people having a Cape House, was using a priest Cape House, which I look back, it's kind of weird, but you know, it is what it is. But what I was thinking of is like, and I'm curious if anyone, whether it was like grandparents or your parents ever had said this, but I feel like it was never going to be a thing. But I do feel like many times my grandmother or my mom would be like, you know, just always as you talk to a kid like about like what their future could be, and they're like, yeah, you could be a priest, go to the, you know, go to the whatever. And like, you know, I think back on it, and there was never a fucking chance that was ever happening with me, but they like did bring it up like way too many times, like just like even casually. Like first it was just like, hey, don't forget this is an option. Then it became like they would just always kind of throw that in along with like, yeah, doctor, scientist, what about priest? Like it just was always there. So I didn't know, did that happen to you guys, or was that just like my super religious grandmother and mom that did that?
So my dad used to tell me, like, I would say legitimately, maybe once a week, he was like, if you become a priest and I get to go to heaven no matter what I do. Hello, Bowie. That's my cat again. But he literally, I don't know if somebody must have told him this when he was young, but he claimed that if your son was a priest, that you automatically got into heaven. So he used to encourage me all the time to be a priest for selfish reasons. But
that's a great premise, like, to just live your life to the fullest and not give a fuck, but only concentrate on getting your son to become a priest, because then it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. That was his plan. And then I think because I was like a nerdy kid that got like good grades in school, I do think like older people in my life were like, well, yeah, he could be a priest. You know what I mean? There's not many options of like what he could do. So yeah, people suggested to me all the time, but I did not have any interest in becoming a priest.
Yeah, I don't remember too many times in which it was suggested to me.
Because you were a good athlete.
Maybe that could be the case. But I do remember this one time where Will was an altar boy. And there's one time where my mom was trying to get me to become an altar boy. And then just because Will was my best friend, like we were like trying to do stuff together. And I was told, okay, you're going to be an altar boy. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll be an altar boy with Will. And we go up on the altar and we're just like goofing off the whole time. And I like can't stop laughing. And my mom's just in the crowd, mortified as she's watching us from church. And then finally, like, I tell Will, like, stop fucking with me. Like, I got to focus here. I'm going to get in trouble. And there's this one part in the mass where, like, as the priest is blessing the communion, you're supposed to ring a little bell as the altar boy. And it was my job to ring the bell. But Will was fucking with me during the mass. So I didn't want to pay attention to him, but I missed the cue for the bell. And he was like knocking me on the arm, like, dude, like, you got to ring the bell. You got to ring the bell. And I'm hitting him like, get it, dude, I'm going to get in trouble. Get away from here. Just completely missed the bell. And I see the priest like making eye contact with me, like, ring the fucking bell, kid. And finally, Will just reaches over and rings the bell. That was the one and only time I was an altar boy.
I was an altar boy, but then the priest at the time I also actually mentioned him at the beginning of the book. His name was Father Freitas, but he, I was like bigger than him because I'm huge. You can't, if for those that don't know me, I'm sitting down right now, but I
6'3" and stacked.
But no, I was like either taller or the same size as him. So it looked like there was just two priests. Like when I was an altar boy, I looked like a young priest.
Wait, Mark, you're taller than 6'3".
I'm like 6'3", 6'4". I don't know. I haven't been measured in a while. But as older people in my life get smaller, I become bigger, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. So before we go to Mediocre Life Update, which we're gonna bring you into America's favorite segment, Mediocre Life Update, leave the audience here with what's the number one reason somebody should go and buy this book, which, by the way, you can use the link below and you can use it for your Kindle. You can also buy the physical copy that I have been showing off here today as well, depending on which type of medium you want to use. But leave one lasting thought here on one last statement on why people should go ahead and give this book a shot.
Yeah, I think, like, have there been books like this in the past? Yeah, like a million. But like nowadays, I think that at least the books that people like recommend or get published, they're like a very specific type of book. I would say this is more of like a throwback. It's like a mystery thriller. It's crime fiction is what I would describe it as. But I would also say if like you like crime movies or if like anything like where it's a detective or a private detective, that type of thing, leading the story, that you would like this. In terms of, is this literature? I'm not exactly sure, but I would say it's a good story. And because I'm not like, I'm never going to win like the Pulitzer Prize or whatever. I would say it reads like a movie, right? So if like you like movies, like let's say you haven't read a book in 20 years, where I have friends where that's literally the case. And then shout out to Chris. Chris has read 2 books in the last 20 years, and they're the books I wrote, excuse me. So he doesn't really have a frame of reference, but he liked them. But I would say if you haven't read any in a while, I would say this is a great entry point back into reading, because it's simple prose, like it's easy to read. I would say it's a quick read, and I would say it's almost more similar to a movie than it would be to your traditional novel. Greg, would you agree? I don't know.
No, I would agree. I think that you do a really good job of just like using imagery to paint a picture in people's mind, especially if your goal for this book was to get all of your friends who stopped reading in 6th grade to read again. I think you accomplished it.
If nothing else. Yeah.
Little differences turn into big differences. So you're bringing reading back to the community, Mark.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
That's what you're doing. Again, you guys can find the link here, whether you listen to it on Spotify, Apple, if you're listening on YouTube, the link is in the description. Make sure that you go check that out. Now, let's get to America's favorite segment.
Don't play the music too long or I'll kill you.
Mediocre life update. All right, that'll do it for that. Mark, it's the worst intro music maybe in history, but again, this is called Mediocre Life Update, so we're looking for mediocre intro music, and we don't have it clipped, so it's just me estimating how long I want to play it every time, and it's a different length every single time.
Drives me crazy.
So Mark, as the guest, I want to allow you to go first, but if you want to make sure that your mediocre life update works, we can have Greg go first. I'm gonna allow you to make the choice here. If you want to kick us off, or if you want me or Greg to get the ball rolling.
I can go first.
Go for it.
Let it rip, my friend.
Okay, so I don't know if you've seen the horror movie Weapons, but there was a horror movie Weapons this year.
Yes.
And without ruining anything, it revolves a witch, and she has a very distinct look. So for Halloween, I went as the witch at work, and so it's a female witch. So I had lipstick on, full makeup, the wig, like a necklace. And when I got to work, yes, I did wear that on the train as well. So people just thought I was a crazy person. There was literally teenage girls pointing and laughing at me, which was great. But when I got to work, I was in costume. And people just didn't know what I was, so they were just like either scared or concerned or whatever. So some people like didn't realize it was Halloween until they saw me, and they're like, "Oh, I love your costume. I don't know what it is." And like I kept hearing that over and over again. So we had a costume contest, and I was like, "Okay, other people that are dressing up, maybe they'll know like what I am." I mean, it was a movie that was like in theaters, but it became increasingly weird. I became increasingly aware that this was not going over well. And so I went to the costume contest, and people were like, "Oh, that's great, but what are you?" And so I'm like trying to say like, "Oh, this is this movie about a witch, and I'm the witch in the movie." And this girl who I've never met before at my work came over and was like, "He's Weapons," like, which is the name of the movie. And then she just like stood by me. I don't even know her name. And so anytime somebody would come over to ask who I was, she'd go, "He's Weapons." And they'd be like, "Oh, okay." So they were more confused because I was a weapon, the plural of weapons. That's exactly what I was. So I looked like that. And there's a girl next to me, just like as my like assistant manager, just going, "Oh, he's Weapons." So anyways, people just said "You're Weapons." I won the costume contest partially because not many people dressed up for the costume contest. But now when that lady sees me in the hallway, she's like, "Oh, there's Weapons." And so that's my name now. That's my mediocre life update.
I love it.
That's fantastic.
That's great. I would say, it is January 11th, so I don't know if this is a life update, because this is from Halloween. That's like
Yeah,
2
but I'm
months
still
ago.
weapons is the thing.
Okay. So that's your name. And you have yet to learn her name?
No, I don't know what I mean. I know I would say her name probably isn't weapons if I was to guess, but yeah.
This reminds me of a time when I was in 6th grade when we went to the Rogers in Hyde Park, which I actually don't think exists anymore.
Yeah,
I think
closed down.
It's closed down. But I'm pretty sure you were on the bus for this, but there was kind of like this hierarchy, right? Like the 8th graders ran the bus, right? Because it was 6th, 7th, 8th grade. 8th graders ran the bus, and kind of like what you were saying earlier. Like when you're in 6th grade, 8th graders are like, dude, they're so old. They're like basically adults. Like is how you're feeling, especially when you're new to the school. And there was this one chick on the bus who, in my mind, she looked like the Brat, like the rapper. That's kind of how I still remember her. But she used to like pick on everybody. And like, I just in my head was like, yo, just don't come to me. Don't come to me. And like, she would just call people virgins and shit, which was like the biggest insult. Yeah. Like, oh no, she's going to call me a virgin. And so she's like making her way around. And I remember she came over to me and I'm just listening to my CD player to try to keep to myself. And she was like, hey, yo, little N-word, which I'm not, but little N-word, like what you listening to? And so I like, very like sheepishly like hand her my CD to show her what I'm listening to. And she was like, oh shit, little N-word listening to Nelly. Then she saw it was the edited version. But so she made fun of me for that for a little bit. But from that day forward, all she did was like kind of like your story, Mark. She would see me in the hall and she'd be like, hey, yo, what up, little Nelly? Yo, what up, Nelly? Every single time. So I was like, listen, if she's just gonna call me Nelly and not bully me, and she thinks that's like good enough, I'm totally on board with being Nelly for the rest of my 6th grade life.
Yeah, that's a win.
Yeah, you either at that point it was like you were Nelly or you were Little Bow Wow. It was like those were the two people that everybody at the Rogers were looking. That's hysterical. Okay, I'll go next. I'm gonna go cleaning. So I texted Will before the pod, and I was like, "Hey, have I talked about my Swiffer on the pod yet?" And he goes, "No, I don't think you have." So this is also, about a month ago, my mom came to visit, and Danielle was out of town for, I think, for work or to visit family or something like that. And it was just me. So like my house wasn't that clean. It wasn't dirty, but it wasn't like that clean. And my mom decided at the end of the trip that we needed a Swiffer. So when Danielle, there's a Swiffer waiting at the door for us. Like my mom sent it. She didn't say that she was going to order us a Swiffer. She just ordered us a Swiffer. Right. So
subtle. I like it.
In Danielle's mind, this is like the biggest insult ever. She's like, does your mom know that we have 2 mops? And I was like, we've used those mops maybe once in the 4 years that we've lived here. But yes, my mom knows that we have 2 mops. And she was like spiraling for like a week about how she's like a bad partner or whatever. My mom thinks that she doesn't keep the house clean or we don't keep the house clean. But I have a Swiffer now. The issue with the Swiffer is that there's like a battery insert in the back. And for whatever reason, this Swiffer did not come with the battery insert. And for a while, I was just like, I don't know how to use this because there's no battery. So what I started to do is just take regular cleaning spray and spray it on the floor and then just use the Swiffer mop to clean it up. So if you can imagine, I'm walking around with the Swiffer in one hand and cleaning spray in the other, and I'm spraying the floor and then mopping. But then I was like, you know what? I actually have the solution that comes with the Swiffer, but I just don't have the thing to make it come out of the Swiffer. So I like punctured it with a knife. And what I'm doing is now I'm spraying it on the floor from that cleaning solution. But the issue is the Swiffer works better when it's actually inside of the insert because there's an extra amount of weight in there that allows you to clean the floor properly. But Danielle, it drives Danielle absolutely crazy because she watches me and she's like, we can just get a new Swiffer or use the fucking mops that we have. And I'm like, no, like my mom bought this for me. I'm going to utilize it. And I think she prefers this to how I typically would clean the floor, which is with a spray bottle on my hands and knees with a roll of paper towels, because that's how my mom cleaned the floor growing up. And I just thought everybody cleaned the floor that way on their hands and knees. But apparently that's just not the case. And she never believed me that this is how my family would clean the floor until she visited my home and she literally witnessed my mom on her hands and knees with a roll of paper towels and cleaning solution. But yeah, that's my mediocre life update. My mom did text me and say she would send us a new Swiffer with batteries, but I told her I think that might cause more problems.
Couldn't you just buy the battery pack separately? Is that not an option?
Probably.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's the easiest solution to all of this. Is like you have everything else but the one part that this company, I'm sure, makes replicates of that you can purchase because they break or you need to update it at some point.
But I'm already
not
committed
exactly
to it.
Tech savvy, but I would say if you don't have a battery, you just got to get the battery. But yeah.
This is why we do mediocre life update. These things that we can help solve problems. But I gotta be honest, that's kind of a bold move by your mom, if I'm gonna be honest. I like it's super subtle. Well, it's not super subtle, but like the fact that she did it after she visited, left, and then like on the plane, it's just like, I gotta get them a fucking Swiffer, and then just sends it to your house.
I think she thought she was being helpful, right? She thought she was being helpful. And I told her straight up, I was like, I don't use these mops. Like I'm just, we weren't a mop family. So like when I see the mop in the garage, I'm like, that is something I'm not familiar with. I don't want to utilize that. It's just like, it just gives me anxiety.
I never use the mop. I use the Swiffer every once in a while, but I don't even do that enough. But so I get yelled at for that. But like, I definitely never use the mop.
The mops are for when Danielle's mom comes to visit and she decides our floors are too dirty and mops the whole house for us.
I like it. That's a good update. So where as of today, where are we at with Swiffergate? Has it been decided you're getting another Swiffer? You're going to use the mops? Your mom's getting you a battery pack that you guys can order yourself?
Hey, listen,
where are we at?
I'm the one cleaning the floors, so I'm going to keep doing it how I do it, which is exactly how I described.
Full Metal Jacket style. Just get the toothbrush out and just start going around the floors. Okay, I like it. All right, I will round us out with my mediocre life update. This is going to be a little bit of, I think I know the answer already, but I just want you guys to kind of hold me accountable here, and I'll see what you guys say. So obviously, we're recording this here. What is it? January 11th. So, I don't know if you guys are, Mark, you've done it before. You doing dry January right now?
Yeah, I am doing dry January.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Greg, I know you usually do it up until your birthday. Typically, we decided, you know what, with a new baby in the house, like we don't drink that much anyways. And when we do, it's like, I kind of fucking need a drink right now. Like I'm not going to what's it going to do cutting out the one or two times that we do it socially, like over the next couple of, weeks. Mm-hmm. So we decided we weren't really doing that. And then we didn't really have anything, but we came back we were in El Paso for Christmas and New Year's. Came back, and then we had no food in the house, so then we had to go and food shop like Saturday or Sunday last week, and then like Monday or Tuesday, me and both my wife Lorena, like we both get kind of like a sweet tooth after dinner, and so usually for her it's like ice cream. For me, it's like, is there cookies or is there like some candy that I put in the fridge? Like that's really just, and it's become a bit of a problem. For being real, it's become a bit of a problem. It's like it just happens every single time, and so we didn't get anything really kind of on accident, and so I thought about it. I was like, you know what? This would probably actually be a good challenge for us, not like dry January, but actually not having sweets would be good. So we were like, all right, let's do that for the month of January, no sweets. However, one thing I forgot before I did this was my work sent me this like thing called Sugar Wish, which is like you can pick your own gifts. And so I picked a whole bunch of like cookies and brownies for us that just showed up at our door yesterday, and they look bomb. And so now I'm in this position where we really want to stick to it, obviously, but now there's this temptation in the house that we didn't have before, which was accidental, but now there's this temptation. And so here's the thing, and I want to see what you guys think. We could either cave just for the gift, because this is a gift. I don't like wasting food. I get really annoyed with like wasting food. I don't want to waste it. 2, we can just kind of hope that they hold. Like, these are treats that they could make it another 3 weeks, I think. I don't really know. Haven't looked into it, but it could be a nice little reward once we get to the end of the month. Or I don't go into an office, but Lorena does, so I can send her like, hey, just put these in your office and give them away. What's the move? Do we cave and still move forward with the rest of the challenge? Do we leave them in the house as temptation and, kind of use it as like a build up our battle against sweets, but we don't touch them and then we try to use it as a reward? Or do we just get them the hell out of the house?
Go ahead,
What
Mark.
do you guys think?
This would be like if I went and got a 30-pack of Bud Light and just put it in the refrigerator. But like, this is not helpful for you at all. But
it's an extra level to the challenge.
I think Greg is going to tell you to stay strong. What I might suggest as an alternative is everybody gets in their head that like has to be January 1st to January 30th, but this is a limit we're putting on ourselves. So you could have them and then just start the month afterwards. It's not as clean as saying try January.
I think if it was January 2nd, I'd be in that. But where it's January 11th, I'm like, cool, we did it for like 6 days.
Well, you could make Valentine's Day the ends date and then celebrate on Valentine's.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I do like that, but I think there is something to momentum when you're doing these challenges, right? And if you've already built up the momentum where it's January 11th and you haven't had any sweets, I think you just got to keep going with it and you got to donate this to the office. I think that's the move that I would do. You know what's crazy, Will? Did we talk about this? Because this is literally what I'm doing.
I think you did inspire this. I think you mentioned this to me. I didn't know to like what extent you guys were doing it, but like I know that I think you mentioned it to me, and then I was like, oh, you know what? We actually do, like usually we do get some type of ice cream or sweet that we have like after dinner, and we had so much. The house was so empty. It was just something we forgot to get. Like it wasn't top of mind, and so then like the first couple nights we made dinner, I was like, fuck, I really want something. But then I think your idea kind of, or you mentioning it kind of clicked in.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing where like typically I would go until February 23rd without drinking. I barely drink anymore. So if I have a drink here or there, it's not that big a deal. Like next weekend, we're going to be in North Carolina and her uncle makes his own beer. So I'll probably have a beer or two. But we're also not doing sweets. What I have substituted instead of sweets is Honey Nut Cheerios. Just have a bowl of cereal with a banana.
Literally had a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios last night.
There you go. Right. That's all you got to do. If you don't want sweets, just substitute it with like a somewhat ostensibly healthy cereal, and then you're good. And you
eating chairs at the movies.
Sneak it in your jacket.
Plastic bag of Cheerios. Yeah.
Bring your own milk. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna figure. I think Greg, I think you're right. I think I might just donate it because the momentum thing is the big piece, right?
Yeah. If I were in your position and I had that, like how many sweets do you have on hand right now?
I mean, there's like 3 of them, but they're like huge. They're like, you know, they come from these companies that work with different corporations.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's like a cookie, but it's like the size of my face is this cookie. You
know, okay. The other option is just have a cheat day tonight and eat it all. And eat it all in one day, and then it's out of your house.
We'll see. I think I'm gonna go the donate route, or I'm gonna look it up and see if on the website if it's like, oh yeah, these are good for like up to 2 months, and it's like, okay, maybe we can hide or throw them in the freezer or something, so it's like out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. But yeah, okay. Wanted to bring that up.
Dude. Throw them in the freezer. They'll keep in the freezer for a month.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, I needed some accountability. I need to put this out into the world, though, because I needed accountability. I'm like George Costanza. I'm weak, so I needed to put this out there for everyone to hear, and that's gonna do it for another rousing edition of Mediocre Life Update. We've been taking some of these. Shout out to our guy Alex here. He's been taking some of these and putting them on their own segment, so they'll live within the podcast. But if you are looking for just Mediocre Life Updates, we do have several of those up on our YouTube page if you guys want to go and check it out. This has been a long one.
Loves Mediocre Life Updates.
Hey, listen, it happens sometimes. Sometimes our best content has nothing to do with basketball. So that's why when I tell people I do a podcast, I'm like, hey, listen, you might not like the Celtics, you may not like basketball, but we talk about other shit too. So come hang out with us. We try to have a good time. Mark, appreciate you joining us, man, here. I'm excited to continue reading this book right now. You're bringing reading back to the community. You're doing the Lord's work. And so we're trying to help spread that message. But yeah, again, the link to buy the book is in the description here. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back this week. I don't know what the Celtics schedule is top of my head here, but we'll be back probably Wednesday. I think there's a game on Wednesday, so we'll be back probably Wednesday night or so.
Will, remember, I'm in Charlotte, so I can't record until Thursday.
So Thursday, there it is, folks. Thursday, we'll have a podcast for you here. So appreciate you guys checking in with us here. We'll catch you guys later this week. Peace.